Enough has already been provided in terms of the absolute details, but the hearts go out to all the evacuees who are dealing with this and want to make sure that they know that all levels of government will be making sure that they get the support that they need. And we're here working together to making sure that we're working out any of the final resources or any support that's going to be needed, and everything, no stone will be left unturned to support them.
So we'll start the media availability now. You'll have one question and one follow-up. Please state your name and outlet, and we can go from here down.
I'm just wondering, Minister, has the incident response group convened?
Sorry, can I have your name and
Oh,
outlet?
I'm sorry, Lisa Johnson with the Canadian Press. Has the incident response group convened yet? And if so, have there been any specific federal commitments?
So first, yes, the incident response group, the Prime Minister has did convene that. I was part of it, and a statement will be put up by their office very shortly. And what the incident response group is for is to making sure that the Prime Minister can coordinate all federal support, which he has already committed to the Premier, to making sure that they have all the resources, and for us as ministers to making sure that those resources get to the right place.
Next question. Do you have a question for Global? Nope. Yeah, CTV.
Yeah, it's Jeremy Key from CTV. So this fire's happening in a national park, but threatening a municipality. So even though there's federal resources on the way, is this a situation that makes for a strong case for a national centralized emergency response agency, kind of like FEMA?
So it's a very good question, but when it comes to this, it's important to outline that Parks Canada, as they have already described, do have a wildfire response force. In fact, actually, even when they're not being utilized in national parks, they actually offer their support to other provinces, just like they're doing in Alberta at this time. And what we try to do is making sure that the right resources is going to the right place. So right now the resources were there, and as has already been outlined, given the intensity of the fire, every request was approved through SIFC, ourselves, and the support that was coming through the province as well. The circumstances changed just so rapidly, has been outlined earlier, with the flames going over 100 meters. Some of those acorns that were literally on fire being launched in some cases about a kilometer apart. That there was nothing at that time that could be done to deal with it, and protecting life was the priority. When it comes to other federal resources, this is something that we're going to be working with the provinces. We need to make sure that again the right resources put into the right place. Right now we're focused on making sure there's more firefighters that have been trained through NRCan and also through Indigenous community as well. So making sure that the right people are trained who can get to the right place, and then looking at what are all the necessary resources that are actually needed. And that's what we do when we get together at our provincial, federal, and territorial meetings.
Okay, and this question's for Minister Ellis. From what I understand, the province said that they couldn't get certain equipment, certain firefighting tactics without Parks Canada's approval. Did the feds wait a little bit too long before the fire was where towards the edge of town?
Well, hang on a second. As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter what the preparation is. When you're talking a 100-meter firewall and you're talking a fire that's moving, 5 kilometers in a matter of 30 minutes, those firefighters from Parks Canada were there. They were doing their job. They were doing the best that they could. I don't care how many firefighters we're talking about. When you're talking that level of catastrophe that is coming towards you, there's not much you can do about that. We made sure that, the government made sure that Parks Canada had the necessary resources in place. Obviously, the folks in Jasper, which is a municipality, through Alberta Emergency Management Agency, works with them to make sure that they are prepared. We've called in additional resources when it comes to structural firefighting. And part of the reason why Minister Sajjan is here is that if there are any communication, we'll call it stumbling blocks, we'll call it that. I'll tell you that Minister Sajjan has been wonderful to make sure that we are working collaboratively between the province and the federal government and Parks Canada. And I can tell you that when a resource has been asked from Parks Canada, from the Alberta government, we've been able to provide that.
Next question.
Mernali Yunshin with CBC Edmonton. I'm wondering if you could please give us a breakdown on what the step-by-step process is when it comes to requesting federal assistance, because obviously there's a lot of confusion as to what parties were responsible for what action in this scenario.
Well, I mean, so these fires are very dynamic. Obviously it's a national park, so the response is from Parks Canada. They're the ones that are responsible for the initial incident as it broke out from the lightning that we believe started that particular fire. Obviously, they worked in collaboration with the municipality, which is Jasper, and there was a critical incident command team that was started up between Parks Canada as well as Jasper. Alberta Emergency Management, along with Forestry and Parks, which do wildfire, they were providing support and advice. And of course, they were responsive to the needs of the critical incident command team.
If I could just add to that, just to the overall RFA process itself, and talk about it in general first. We're always, our Government Operations Center is coordinating the support at the federal level and keeping a good situational awareness of what's happening across the country. As you know, there's fires taking place in British Columbia here and other places as well. And with that coordination, resources are always looked at how they're being coordinated, and that's done through the Canadian Interagency Forest Agency. And what they end up doing is moving provincial resources where it's actually needed. When those resources are tapped out, and also, I should also add, international resources are brought into place. So, for example, there's about 400 international firefighters that are coming into place, plus incident command teams from Australia, Mexico, and South Africa, and New Zealand as well. So they should be arriving here this weekend. When more federal support is needed, that what we try to do is anticipate. The work is already done. And like in this case here, Minister Ellis and I are always in communication, sometimes 3-4 times a day. He's already given me a heads up of what they're actually thinking, and we'll get the ball rolling. And in yesterday's situation, even before what was taking place in Jasper, because there's significant wildfires in northern Alberta, that's where the RFA process kicked into place as well, where support was needed, and CAF was and it was authorized literally very quickly. I called Minister Blair, and the approval was done very quickly. In terms of Jasper, in terms of that support, a request for assistance is not needed because being federal, they can work directly through the Government Operations Center. And I can tell you that Parks Canada, all the resources that were requested, not only were authorized, and they had all the tools that they needed. In this case here, as Minister Ellis has already mentioned, the situation had changed so drastically that nothing could have been done to prevent this, even with additional resources that would be put into place. It came about moving enough people out so they could be able to save lives. And I want to just give a special shout out to all the folks who were actually in the town with the appropriate equipment, fighting the structural fires and preventing greater loss of structures. I'm very thankful and pleased that no injuries have been or life has been taken as a result of this as well.
And for timeline purposes, could we get a sense of when exactly Parks Canada gave notice to the federal government about the severity of the fire and for asking for extra assistance?
So it's not about when, it's actually this. We knew when there's a fire that takes place at the provincial and even at the federal level, it's automatically everybody is tracking very closely. So we track all the different fires together, and we were monitoring this very closely. So decisions are made by the experts on where the resources need to go, and especially at the provincial level. Parks Canada also have a significant experience that we're working with the command, had the unified command with the township as well. So we were monitoring, and as requests were coming, the Government Operations Center at the federal level was triaging that, and we were getting regular updates to making sure that the appropriate resources were put into place. And I can, as the Parks Canada has already mentioned, they had all the resources that were requested, and nothing could have been done in this case here.
I just want to give, thank you, Minister. I also want to give thanks and appreciation. I know the Minister kind of touched on this, especially to our incident command team that made that decision to evacuate Jasper. You know, the number one priority when you're involved in critical incident command is the protection of life, and the fact that people were evacuated in a timely manner, the fact that people listened to the emergency alerts, and the fact that we did not have a loss of life. I mean, that in itself is something that needs to be recognized. Thank you.
Next question? Anyone else?
Zach, City News Edmonton. I don't have a question, but I do have a remote reporter tuning in right now. You may have addressed everything. Elliot, can you say any questions that you may or may not have? He's just on the podium.
I see a phone.
Yeah. So we don't hear from him in 10 seconds. We can assume everything has been answered.
Okay.
Good.
We will be out again tomorrow.
Yeah, let me just say this before we go. Thank you very much. And I want to thank Minister Sajjan, quite frankly. Again, him and I are in regular contact. The number one priority is obviously the people of Alberta, especially in this particular case, the people of Jasper. I think it should not be lost that we do have that other communities within the province of Alberta that have been evacuated. I can tell you Minister Sajjan has been responsive. Myself and the Minister Lowen, as well as the Premier, have also been on the phone with the Prime Minister as well earlier today. He was engaged. He was responsive. Wanted to make sure that we had all the necessary things that we needed, not just for Jasper, but for Alberta, who are going through this critical incident right now regarding fires. So with that, I would like to thank everybody, and Mr. Sajjan and I will be available tomorrow.